G'day, friends, and welcome back to the show. My guest for today is Graeme Hand. Graeme's a HM certified educator. He's also a grazier himself. And in this episode, we go over the lessons he's learned and the different grazing strategies that he's trialed over the last 30 years, along with, what he has notice and the knowledge he's gained from teaching, different clients all over Australia and all over the world, including Mongolia and Brazil, as I found out. So in this episode, you can expect to learn how Graeme sets up safe to fail trials for people that are just looking to get started in this style of grazing. We talk about the influence of graze height on regrowth. We talk about the people aspect of a grazing business and much, much more. So I hope you guys enjoy the episode, and if you get any value from it, feel free to leave a review. Graeme, it's a pleasure to have you on the Grazing Game podcast.
Thanks, Cam. It's good to be here.
Oh, no, it's I'm excited for the chat. So, am I correct in understanding that you first started playing with, planned grazing or holistic grazing, in the late 80s, early 90s?
Yeah, that's right. I had friends that had cattle, and and I was working in London, and a young woman said to me, "Oh, do you talk a lot about that area?" And I went, "Oh, why aren't I there?" So I thought, "Oh, I'll come back and start farming." I'd saved a fair bit of money working in London,
Yep.
and came back and bought a small farm and started there. Thought I was hopeless, and then started searching. So I thought, oh, this won't take me long to work out, but took a lot longer than I thought. So
Yep, absolutely. And then, so in 1996, the year that I was born, you were heading over to Africa where you trained under Alan Savory in
uh,
holistic
it
management.
was actually in New Mexico, in the States. So
Oh, yep. Yep. So you went to New Mexico in,
yeah,
1996. Um,
yeah.
how was that whole experience? And I guess for people that are listening that may not have heard of Alan Savory, do you reckon you could briefly just describe his work?
I was working for AMH at the time, so which is now JBS, down at the abattoir at Portland, and they shut the abattoir on the Wednesday, and I flew out on the Monday for the training in New Mexico. It was always sort of in the back of my mind. I'd love to do it. So I'd been trying to understand what was writing. So Alan was one of the first people that I came across that understood that complexity was different from complicated. So he actually understood that if you're going to make decisions in the complex domain where things never repeat, um, the definition of insanity doesn't apply because things never repeat. So when you hear people say that's the definition of insanity, you know they're talking to you from the complicated domain where you have expertise. So just quickly, if you had a legal problem, or water, or which herbicide, you would go and talk to an agronomist or a water engineer or a tax lawyer or something. You go and get expertise. In the complex domain, they really can't help you. You've got to do your own work, and I'll describe that later as safe to fail trials. So, yeah, so it was fantastic. Um, Alan was very surprised that I'd come from a Mediterranean environment and that I'd been trying to adopt what he talked about for quite a while. And yeah, so he spent the weekend with me. So I had him sort of just one on one for the weekend. He was writing one of the book versions. I can't remember which one. And we went out for lunch and things like that. But it was quite it was quite mind opening that and an example of one of the things that he can do. excuse me, that other people can't do is he actually said that horses are the most powerful tool we have for regenerating grasslands. And I went, oh, yeah, because that wasn't what our horses were doing. So, and I then started to flex because I go, oh, it's not the animal, it's how we apply them to the land. And that started really where I started this idea of complexity from Alan, that you could use tools and we were stuck in certain boundaries. I always think you should never say a number to people, and I struggle to do this, but there's lots of research. If you say, how far is it from Melbourne to Brisbane, and say, is it more or less than 500 kilometres? People never triple it. They never triple the 500. They'll go, oh, I think it's about 1,000. They'll double it maybe, or 750, but they never get it right because you've actually bounded people's thinking by giving them a number. And that's what I think's happening with grazing, and that's why I do things quite differently.
Yeah, for sure. Is that on that horse, just touching on the horses as a tool of regeneration, is that because you think they can, utilize lower quality feed a lot better, or?
Oh, the land actually to germinate perennial grasslands, you need soil to seed contact and you need soil surface disturbance, but you need it in a certain way, not continual and not too light. And we get that wrong. So it's finding out, so I've done a lot of regeneration with horses. And people say, oh, they'll say to me, do you know that, they have this many pounds per square inch of pressure on the land? And when people are telling me that, I go, oh, it'd be good if they were smaller. And you can see them look at me going, does he really understand pressure? But what I'm trying to say is it's they are hard on the land and they can pick up litter, they can graze really close, but that's under our control. So how they manage is really under our control. So we just need to shift that. It's not that hard to do, but you can't do it thinking about it. This is one of those things that I keep. I got it from a guy, Jerry Stern, and I don't know where he got it from, but it's easier to act your way into a new way of thinking than think your way into a new way of acting. Most people try and sit and think that through, and you'll never get there. You've actually got to go out and try using the horses differently, learn happened, get the feedback, and change and keep moving. And I use like the Mythbusters thinking that, if it doesn't work, get a bigger bomb. So if the horses didn't regenerate, go for longer recoveries or more impact or less impact. You've got to be I've worked with Gabe Brown, Colin Seiss, Alan Savory, Johan Zeitsman, all the leading people in this area. And what I find is they have elite observational skills. So when they do something, they go and look at it, and then they go, oh, okay, I'm going to try this now. So they're really good at criticizing themselves, and they're really good at having trials that don't always work because they're trying to find the boundaries. So
I really like that quote, acting your way into a new way of thinking. That's really powerful. So I do definitely want to focus on the grazing as we were just talking about, but I did want to just touch on maybe the people aspect, because I know holistic management and education, you've obviously done a lot with the people aspect of things as well. And so over the last 30 years that you've been working with different producers and around the world, what have you noticed maybe from the people perspective, which contributes to grazing businesses failing or running into problems?
yeah, it's I'm pretty strong on this. It is never mindset. That's just nonsense. What it is that if, that was why I was trying to talk about within boundaries. One of the things when I first trained with Alan, I'd say start with your recovery somewhere between 30 and 90 days. And most people, if they were really good observers, they'd move out to 120 days. And in most environments, it's closer to, like closer to sort of 12 months rather than 3 months. And everyone thinks that they can do this sort of stuff. But what we struggle, and I never trained people in, is it's the failures are caused by running out of grass, which then drags the money out of the business. Now, there's really good research from the Wombiana grazing trial in Queensland, and it showed that the most profitable and best for the land, and they weren't doing much in the way of grazing management, was moderate stocking in the good years and then rapid reduction of stocking in on forecast in the bad years. And everyone goes, oh, but the Bureau's not very accurate. I go, well, it's a damn sight more accurate than us guessing. So down in, where I am in our southeast Australia, and I work in a lot in Tassie and Victoria and New South Wales. The forecast is accurate enough at certain times of the year that you wouldn't bet against it if you were at the casino. But everyone still wants. But the thing is, they try and bet against it some years and not in others. You've got to bet the same way each time. So if they say it's going to be dry, you've got to activate and do stuff. And that's the most profitable. That's what the research showed on that grazing trial. And if the farm had managed with that moderate stocking in good years, rapid reduction based on forecast in the poor years, they would have been $24 million better off. So it's a massive amount. But no one says this. This is another one of these boundaries. We increase profit by increasing production, is what everyone says. So it's called a production or productivist paradigm. But we actually need to focus not on production, focus only on profit. And profit is not losing money out of the business in the bad years and making a moderate profit in the good years. So don't ever chase those things. And, there's a whole mix up, no risk, no reward. You hear advisors say, and that's just rubbish. That's the stock market. That's not working with nature and farming. We need to eliminate risk in agriculture to keep money in the business.
Yep. Yeah, that's something I've definitely heard you say a few times is trying to completely or well minimize the risk in agriculture as much as you can because we're obviously exposed to so many factors, the markets and climate volatility and pestilence, whatever. So I mean, even just touching on a statement you just made about trying to become profitable without necessarily increasing production. I guess I think when a lot of people think of making a profit, it means increasing stocking rate. So
Yes.
how can people, maybe turn a profit without having to focus on increasing, the amount of stock they're running?
Yeah, so it's about reducing your cost of production. And the way we do that is to reduce inputs by using the animals to create nutrient cycling. So it depends a bit where you are, where you start. So if I'm starting with a new family, and what we'll do is we'll do their cost of production. If it's too high, we'll focus on reducing that first, changing animal types, reducing inputs, trying to work on debt reduction, and then we can start on grazing once they're a low cost producer. If they're already a low cost producer, then we can talk about, well, let's put in the structures to make this work. which would be safe to fail trials, which I'll describe, as I said, but basically you're starting to do, before you change the business, you know what works on your land because you've got these trials on your land.
Yep.
You can't rely on expertise because it's complex. And then how do I design my fencing and water and everything so that it can achieve those results I got from the safe to fail trials? So it's a structured over time process.
Yep.
So not jumping in straight away. The animals aren't going to be right. You won't have the skills. You won't have the infrastructure. You've got to do all that pre-work. And that's what takes the risk out of all this stuff. So it's hours and hours. You've got to be acting, not thinking. Because if you cannot think your way through this to work out, well, how am I going to be more profitable? So you've got to reduce risk. The three big risks, and this was work done by Dr. Tim Hutchings in his PhD, is that is debt's the biggest risk because it compounds down. Then seasonal, like basically rainfall in Australia. We don't get all that much snow in a lot of Australia and those really frosties, but we do get floods and stuff, droughts and flooding rains. And then market price risk. So they're the three big ones. Everyone thinks it's market price that's the biggest one. It's actually debt and rainfall. And then once you've designed a business so that it can't run out of grass, and this is what you've got to design, and this is really hard to do, but we always know how many months of grass we have in front of us. If you have enough, set a lower limit on how many months I'm prepared to accept, and then when your recovery gets down to that, reduce your stocking rate to push back up again. And you just keep doing that. So, and then you never run out of grass. But if you run out of grass, it sucks not only all the money out of your bank account, it actually sucks all the future resources out of your land as well. So there's this continual decline from droughts, and it's being missed because we've been sold the pup that increasing stocking rate will increase your profit, and it doesn't. And I'd strongly recommend people in Queensland read that Wambiano, WAMBIANA, grazing trial results, because it's the clue that makes you realise that most advice is nonsense, because that's what actually worked in practice. I think they did it for 20 years or something. So it's a long-term trial. So and that's what I've found everywhere I've worked. Brazil, Mongolia, USA. It's the same thing. You've got a moderate stocking, and that depends on what you are. The most profitable grazers I know in New South Wales, they actually carry half the district's stocking rate, but their cost of production is a third of their neighbours. So that's how they keep money in the business.
Yep.
And they're providing all the nutrient cycling and water holding capacity and water infiltration through modifying their soil surface through their grazing. So that's how they keep money, not doubling, tripling, quadrupling.
Yep. Yeah.
Sorry.
No, that was awesome. I'll definitely stick a link to that Wambiana grazing trial, which I'm sure I'll be able to find
if not,
online. Yeah, absolutely. And that's funny. Like the almost the one sentence I kind of remember from Gabe Brown's book is yield doesn't equal profitability, and I just always think of that just constantly. But yeah, so definitely the safe to fail trials, the water lanes, the infrastructure is something that I want to touch on. But I mean, one of the reasons I really wanted to get you on the show, Graeme, is because I really resonate with a lot of, the advice you give around landscape management, graze severity, height, recovery, those types of things. I wonder, have you always had this approach to landscape management, or has it been kind of an evolution that, as you said, you've just been implementing stuff and then you've seen results?
Yeah, well, I trained with Alan in '96, and sort of we had a farm over in southwest Victoria, and I started experimenting. So always been a bit that way anyway. And what I found was that one of the first breakthroughs I had was that I was working. I had a friend that was writing the Australian Farm Journal, and he kept sending me photos, and I'd keep sending him photos, and he only went and shifted his animals once a week because the farm, he was in Melbourne during the week and then go up to the farm. Patrick Patrick Francis, and then his photos were better than my photos, and I was working probably 10 times harder than what he was. And all it was then I realised, oh, the importance of recovery, and then I realised things like what created the conditions to germinate perennial grasses. And that was to do with that soil to seed contact and herd effect, Alan Savory would call it. So I sort of knew these things, but actually learning to apply them. A lot of the recoveries that they can use in summer grasslands, in C4 grasslands, don't apply anywhere near in the C3, the winter grasses and stuff. So we lose our grasses really quickly, whereas you can hold them even with pretty bad management up in those C4 grasses. Um, they're either growing fast or they're dormant, it always seems to me up there. Whereas ours, we have a very long growing season. You can do a lot of damage with a long growing season. So, so it was just trying to solve all that. I'd been taught to increase my stocking rate. I was trying to do this. It just took a long time. So, utilization is really interesting. So I've worked with a lot of I work in the regen community. I also manage Stipe Native Grasses Association out of the Central West of New South Wales. And just to germinate grasses, keep the higher successional ones, you start to have to change your views of things. And I was pretty confident that the teaching I was doing with grazing management wasn't working, so I stopped for a while. And that was when I started sort of just going around and seeing who was successful, who wasn't, who actually was doing things. Invariably, they had one mob, one big long recovery time. The people that you could actually measure the increase in their land health. So where we interact with the environments at the soil surface. So what we have to create is a soil surface that's open and friable and sort of cycling nutrients. And that means it needs large perennial grass bases and increasing larger perennial grass bases and decomposing litter between those large perennial grass bases. So that's CSIRO science. It's Alan Savory knows this stuff really well. But I found I had a stint with the DPI in southwest Victoria, and if I could point at the peer-reviewed landscape function analysis from David Tongway and Norm Hindley, they couldn't argue. Although they'd still try and argue. And I'd say it's peer reviewed. That's your standard. You can't say yes, I like some, no, I don't like others. So I used to get into them a bit. Wasn't a good fit for either of us working for the DPI. And so it's that sort of observation, learning, the need to have a peer reviewed method of measuring the soil surface that actually you could point at. So it's all those things all in together. Then how to create that soil surface through safe to fail trials. So typically if I go on farm, I'll say, well, what would you like to trial? And then I say, is it okay if I include one of my trials in them? So you need about 5 or 6, and people can trial anything they want. Do you know, like, and anyone, the only criteria that Dave Snowden, who taught me, um, is that if you come up with an idea, you've got to be able to design the trial. And what are we going to measure?
Yep.
And that stops people coming up with really kooky stuff because they're responsible for that. And I'd say, oh, well, can I put in one of my trials? And what I was trying to do was get over all the limits. There's thresholds of stock density and recovery and utilization. So I just put in one trial. And the people look at me because they go, oh, that's what we thought we were paying you for. But if you ask permission, that works really well.
Yep.
And then I'd just say, well, look, can we include one that's got 12 months recovery, greater than 3,000 cows per hectare stock density, and greater than 80% utilisation, which is well outside the range of most people's experience. And then when that one either went well or didn't, didn't always go well. Sometimes it didn't need to be repeated. But when it went well, they'd go, oh, I didn't expect that to happen. So they can usually, because I've got this thing that a lot of the people I work with are quite impatient. And if they get a result in 12 months, they like to see that. So in that 12 months, they get a result. So I just focus on that as an idea. So instead of saying, is Brisbane 500 kilometres, saying is Brisbane more or less than 10,000 kilometres. So I'm trying to get them to think out there somewhere. And when they see how good it is, then they go, oh, and like we've got lots of people that have done these now, and we've done them research with UTAS and all that. But the guy says, I went to his farm the other day and he goes, you don't need to say anything. I know that I need to get out towards 9 to 12 months. And this is in northeast Tasmania. So like, rainfall, soil types, all that sort of
Mhm.
stuff. So, yeah.
Yep. Did the so recovery was probably the first biggest factor that you realized has the biggest effect, would you say? And then
Yeah.
when did you kind of realize that depending on how much forage you harvested with each graze really influenced the quality or the type of regrowth that you guys were seeing?
Yeah. Well, I was sort of consulting and training. So this is in sort of towards the end of the 90s. And I was going to so many farms that you start to see the patterns. And what you were seeing was there was no recruitment um, of new grasses. So people were having to still resow, whereas we don't resow anymore. We don't resow anything. Um, you get what you take what you can get, so, and a lot of the time you might, if you feel like you need a species, hand broadcast some onto a trial and just see if it comes up. If it comes up reproduces and doesn't need any mollycoddling, you can stay. So but if you need to be looked after and fluffed and turned over, then you're not staying here. So it's the same, like when I was farming in southwest Victoria, we would wean our heifers with nose rings in the mob. They'd never leave the mob, and everyone goes, "Oh no, you got to take them out, Graham. This is. I've been told this all my life. This is what you don't understand." And I go, oh, "Really?" So you've got to take them out and feed them. And I said, I'd always say, if they can't get back in calf or they can't get pregnant when I want them to in that short joining period, then they're not for me.
Mhm.
So you start changing the way you think about the world. I love it that Gabe Brown's trying for 50% um, in calf rate for his heifers, and if they don't, he pushes them harder. because
Mm.
he can make a lot of money out of those empty heifers in their meat business, and he only wants the best of the best,
Mm.
so the most fertile. So it's that sort of approach rather than, and he used to breed Angus, he had an Angus stud, and he said he used to go for 98% in calf. And he just can't believe what he was trying to do or how that ever helped. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so sorry, I don't know whether I finished that or not. So,
Oh, you're right. It was just on touching on, I guess, how you came across, or when you the point that you realized um, the take half, leave half doesn't really work. And
yeah.
that because that's how I
Yeah.
came across you was yeah I mean I started with the take up leave half as well as everyone recommends
Yeah, yeah.
and soon found out that that doesn't work with our C4 grasses. They obviously take what they want and reject the rest, and
Yeah.
trying to keep on top of that when as it matures so quickly, and summer was just getting so hard, and they were on a diet that was not what it could be.
Yeah.
And it wasn't. Yeah, I think I was just watching one of Jim's videos one day, and he mentioned you about your I mean, you know, research into root driven versus leaf driven regrowth, and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
yeah, so can you tell me a little bit
Yeah,
about
for
why that
sure.
doesn't work?
So for a start, I had, a lot of this take half, leave half and keeping the solar panels and stuff. People blame on Andre Voisin, and with his book Grass Productivity. So I go, oh, that wasn't what I got from his book. So I went back and reread it. And he actually states that it appears that if you leave more leaf area, you'll get shorter recovery. But below that, in the version of the book I had on the same page, he said, although this seems like a practical thing, that it doesn't, this seems like a logical thing, it doesn't work in practice. And it doesn't work in practice because the animals choose the plants they want to eat. They're not like motor mowers and cut everything down. So your best grasses get grazed to the ground within the first, you know, I don't know, first couple of hours of being in a paddock. And then they start on the ones that they prefer less. So really, when you're talking about the 50%, you're eyeballing it and you're only looking at the ones that they didn't really like anyway. And it could be the same species, but more fiber or whatever. And so therefore, when they come back the next time, again, those better grasses have freshened up and they get grazed again. So eventually they get overgrazed and taken out. So you end up with monocultures of not great grass. So in southwest Victoria, that was phalaris. We'd just end up with everything was phalaris. If you didn't manage for the recovery of the better grasses, you lost your perennial ryegrass. This is in planted pastures. In central western New South Wales, you just end up with red grass, so with Bothra cloa. Like it always is some sort of rank grass, that no one wants to eat. And that's what drives a lot of those weedy perennials, is that they're not getting grazed because the animals, their rumens shift and they can only eat that amount of protein, that amount of energy. They change their bugs. So the animals aren't fussy, it's just that their bugs are usually in the wrong, their previous feed has decided what ratio of dry feed to green feed bugs they have in their guts, and that changes what they can eat. So that's why, people will say, oh, the horse is a funny eater. Well, we were regenerating 12-month-old native perennial grasslands with horses because that was what they ate. We never gave them anything that was low fiber, high protein, and they needed incredibly large volumes. And then the vets would say, oh, it depends on how much they're in work, Graeme. And I go, yeah, we never drenched them. So, and they'd go,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, I'd say so. So most of the issues we create are with grass that's too young. All the metabolic diseases and conditions for worms and drenching and things, is from feed that's too young, that scours the lining off the gut. It's not, like 70% accuracy is high for me. So that's about 70% of all metabolic diseases are from grass too young. And I go, well, don't
Wow.
trust me, do a trial yourself. So if you've got any of those sort of, you know, so I've been to a lot of farms, and you'll drive in. They've got sort of the driveway paddock's got lucerne in it, and there'll be a dead cow in the driveway paddock. Yeah, they always die when you've got someone coming. And I'd say you do know by definition, feed that kills cows is not cow feed. Like so, and they get all, and I
Oh.
go, they go, but they grow fast when they're on it. I go,
Mm,
oh really? This is the same thing. The production versus profit, the grow fast
mm,
versus animal health. All of these things are clearly understood, but we don't like the result. Yeah, we
mm.
don't. We want to be able to trick. So I see the idea of take half, leave half as sort of a cheat, and we think we can cheat nature. And I just go and watch some David Attenborough videos. They didn't take half, leave half, because if
Mm,
you didn't eat in those really big mobs, you didn't get fed.
mm,
You had to eat
mm.
what was in front of you, and they were on about a 12-month recovery. So,
Yeah.
and that's worked, from the north of Africa, Somaliland, Mongolia, Brazil. In
Mm,
Brazil, I thought, oh, it's going to be shorter recoveries. But what happens is it is so active, the decomposition, that to keep the litter layer there, which you need for water infiltration and nutrient cycling, you actually have to have more litter. So you've got to leave the recovery longer. So you can get away with some shorter stuff. Some of our dairy areas in Victoria, they can get away with a much shorter recovery, but
yep.
it's more than 3 months. Do you know?
Mm,
Like,
yeah.
yeah,
It's yeah, I went back and forth probably twice. I was doing the, leave the solar collector, then I went to the total grazing or the higher harvest efficiency, and then I went back, but then I went straight back because it was like I don't know how this is working, right? Because everyone tells us the roots slough off and whatever. I
yeah,
don't know what's happening, but all I know is that my grasses are coming back 1,000 times better quality.
yeah,
They're soft and leafy and palatable, and you can only imagine they're just pumping whatever exudates into the soil. So,
yeah.
is that a huge part of the whole root-driven regrowth? Is that you're getting a lot more leaf back?
Yeah, you get a lot more leaf back, but you get new plants, you get more litter. Do you know? So I'm still sort of with a few of the other regen, sort of, and other grazing people. I still have to argue about the need for litter. People don't like it because you can't stock what you want. But it's not about the stocking or the our job is to regenerate the land while we make a stable, low cost, low risk profit. That's the way I see our job. It's not about trying to have more stock than the next person or do all those things. And it doesn't work because eventually you'll run into, if you increase your stocking rate, you increase your intensity, which increases your risk. So we actually just set ourselves up for failure. But I find it really hard. So, like at the moment, Southwest Victoria's having a really tough year. But there's this funny thing in agriculture. You can't talk to people about what the redesign looks like while they're in it, while they're in the drought. And then as soon as it rains, they forget and move on and don't want to know about it. And I go, there's no gap here. So that's why I've gone to these trials, and a lot of the extension work shows that you've got to be able to show an advantage. And the advantage isn't in stocking rate. The advantage is in increasing landscape function and biodiversity and stable, low cost, low risk profit. So do you know, I go to farms and I go, oh, because they've got red-legged earth mite. And I go, gee, I can't even remember last time we had that.
Yeah.
Um, they've got weeds. Well, I can't remember that. They've got animal health problems, which are usually metabolic problems. So,
Yep.
and I go, well, we don't get that. Do you know, so
Yep.
it was very, when we were selling the farm in southwest Victoria, I got the vet in to preg test some cows. And he said, oh, you just moved here, have you, Graham? And I said, no, no, we've been here for 15 years. And he said, oh, we don't have you on our books or anything. I go, oh, no, we never called the vet. Like so. But because we managed for no animal health problems. So how do you do that? Yeah, so really, really low percentages of any animal health issues. So
Yep.
um, my wife at the time sort of if something died, we had to have a royal commission. So and
Yep.
I used
What's
to say
happened?
it's exhausting. It's exhausting playing all the parts. Like but yeah. So why did that happen? And I'd have to go and study, and that's how I learnt about the impact of non-protein nitrogen through from young grass and creating all those sort of excess ammonia. So you end up with excess blood urea nitrogen, milk urea nitrogen, causing scours in calves. All those links, foot problems, you know, so all those things that are linked to that, mastitis and
Mm.
everything else. So
It was just started connecting all the dots, all stemming from
yeah,
the maturity of that feed. So on that litter, are you like, do you factor in how much litter should be trampled, or are you just thinking, oh, it's a byproduct of whatever high density grazing, or how do you view that?
yeah. Yeah, and this is a really key point because when I started, I thought that when the grass dried off in our summer because we were Mediterranean, that was when you created litter. I now know that you've got a perennial grass plant in the growing season is ready to be grazed when it looks like an ungrazed plant, no cut off tips, good deep green colour, and contains fresh yellow litter. I think that definition works every time. But you've got to grow the litter through that leaf emergence so that you've actually got fresh yellow litter. And that's the perennial grass litter that enhances all your soil health the most. So, excuse me, you've got to have large over, it's got to be over 2 centimetres by 2 centimetres before it gets counted in landscape function, the perennial grass bases, which doesn't happen very much in the C3 grasses. And then you've got to have decomposing. So I sweep the grass over to look into the bunch grasses and just try and imagine if I ate every bit of green out of this, is there enough litter to cover the ground 100%? So that's the visual I use. So Alan Savory's definition of recovery was when it looks like an ungrazed plant, and all I've done is added and contains fresh yellow litter. Because to get that continually increasing landscape function, because the soil's always decomposing and eating the litter, you've actually got to keep topping it up. So each grazing event must add more litter. And I find that if I stick to that, it always works. If I pretend that it's, oh, I'll just sneak through this paddy, it never works. And I've done it, for so long. I go, gee, you're a bit slow on the learning here. But yeah, so if you always do that, looks like an ungrazed plant, contains fresh yellow litter, and it's
Yep.
supposed to be when the most severely grazed plant looks like an ungrazed plant. So if it's
Mm.
been grazed flat, it then actually has to go through leaf emergence to look like an ungrazed plant, which takes a long time. Then it's got to go further to grow the litter, which are the older grasses. So
Yes.
um,
Mm.
if you were looking at assessing whether you're going to go to a grazing school or get a consultant in or what, ask them what they know about leaf emergence. It's a really good sort. If they don't understand the question, then run away. Ask them if they're going to increase your stocking rate. And if they say, yeah, run away. If ask them what they know about profit and they go, oh, we'll do that through production, run away. But you need to have a list of questions to sort the chaff because it's complex. And there may be other ways of doing things that I don't know about, but I don't see them work over time. So,
Yeah.
so
That,
so a lot of the things that are actually talked about, like keeping it vegetative, leaf half, sigmoid curves, they don't work in practice. They're all theoretical.
yep.
And it's really the biggest blockage to people failing is not the people, it's the trainers, I believe. So
Yep.
I think that as a group, if I can put myself in the grazing training group, I think as a group we're responsible for a lot of damage around the world because we haven't studied and looked at this enough. And one of the things that I say is we are the common denominator. Why are they grazing and not growing litter in the UK where it grows so fast, or Brazil, or the Mexicans have worked it out. If you can read any of the Chihuahuan Mexican ranches, I'd read them. Yeah,
Yep.
they do what I talk about, and they grow grass in the Chihuahuan desert. So
Yep.
yeah,
Yeah. That's
sorry,
that's
going on.
no, that was great. That was great, Graham. No. And that's exactly as you just said, what I've noticed. I'm just trying it and it works. Like just trying a bunch of things and that seems to be working. So maybe just from a practical point of view, in terms of someone wanting to manage and plan their rotations, have you got like a growing season pasture where you focus on a certain area and you let everything else get more mature? Are you trying to get around everything, or how do you manage that?
Yeah, so it's quite different. There's sort of like those schools of thought. So I was taught that you go around the whole place in the growing season at this rate, and then you'd estimate how many laps you could do and go around in the non-growing season to get back to the growing season. That was what I was taught in planned grazing by Alan. I don't do that. There's others that sort of trying to keep it all vegetative and palatable. They rush around half the farm, say, and lock up the other half for the dry season. I don't do that. We know that 12 months recovery and high utilization, high stock density works. So I just do that. So just stick to that. I've never been able to make it work trying to do any of those other sort of variations of leave half, come back to this when it's this high, do any of those things. I've never been able to make them work. And I keep asking the question, if we're mimicking nature, who was organizing the wildebeest or the bison or the diprotodon to come back when it was this many beer cans high? And, it's just ridiculous. Who, if you watch any of those David Attenborough things as well, the heifers never got preferential treatment. They were always at
Mm,
the back of the mob.
yep.
So there's all this sort of stuff that we're mimicking nature, but then, we better give them some urea. So what we do, instead of doing that, because it's very hard on the animals, very, very hard on the animals to do what we do is then select animal phenotypes that have lower maintenance energy. So at the moment, we've got Hereford and Angus cows because that's what we could buy when we were shifting. And then we're starting to breed them with Mashona, Thule, and any of the sort of animals that increase maintenance energy. Now, in the US, they have an EPD for maintenance energy, and it's rapidly declined because they've been selecting for animals that perform in the feedlot, not on pasture. So there's been a rapid decline in their ability to process grass. So they've got too much milk, too much frame. So you have to select away from that. Bigger is not better. And I'm not just saying that because I'm not that tall. The whole thing is that you've got to have animals that'll thrive and survive in your environment that and will produce that high landscape function, go through tough years, go through all that without the props. So you've really, I think the best person in the world for looking at grazing management is Johann Zeetzman. Um, I'm not sure that because he does like having a non-growing season or a dry season sort of buffer, sort of like uh, Jim Elizondo. I'm not sure that's right. I could be wrong. I'm not saying I'm right, but I can't get that to work. And as soon as it doesn't rain, I'm on groups and stuff like in Brazil and South America. As soon as it doesn't rain, it falls apart. And I'm saying let's not do that. So I'd go for more what the Chihuahuan um, grazers are doing, the Chihuahuan desert grazers guys are doing in Mexico, than any of those other versions. I'd look at them because they seem to make it work, and they have to because it's low rainfall, it's highly variable. It's more, the rainfall risk in Australia is generally twice as high as in the US. So you've always got to be dubious about the advice from the States. So.
Yep. Yeah, I was watching another one of your videos a couple of days ago, and you said something that just hit me like a train, and I didn't think about it in that way, but it was like, have your recovery periods longer than the variation in rainfall, and it's like, what a great idea. But I think of it as like, yeah, I'm saving feed for winter reserves and deferred grazing, but I never really thought about it. Hey, maybe you could take it longer for those years that are predicted to be extremely dry.
There was a guy in northern Western Australia, and he said to me he was on 18 months recovery. I was teaching people 3 months. And I looked at him and I was going, yeah, I couldn't process it. And I said, why? And he said, I can miss a wet and still adjust the stocking rate at a profit on 18 months recovery. And I go, oh, that just sort of sounds all right, doesn't it? And it's the same. If your recovery is long enough and you maintain it by adjusting your stocking rate, then you never run out of grass because you've always got a recovery that means that there's going to be growth between when you grazed it and when you come back to that paddy. And it's just such a simple idea. I just, because I'm doing work with drought hubs and things like that, but they don't like it. Like, I know. So, yeah, I don't know.
Do you think on, like, for unadapted cows, maybe grazing, C4 grasses that have been rested for 12 months, there's ever a time where a bit of protein supplement helps until you can get that? Or what are your thoughts
Yeah.
on that protein supplementation in winter?
I tend to sort of, I don't do it just because I've tried it, I've done sort of free choice minerals and silage feeding. I've done all the things. Um, what I find is that the cost goes up, but I haven't managed in a pure C4 grassland. So what we do here, so if I sort of just explain what we did. So we've been here for 2 or 3 years. Um, when we took over, we had unadapted cows. The place was fenced up into a few cells, so we shifted all that wire into laneways, 100-metre wide laneways, and then started cross fencing and building numbers. And we had put a 2-inch water line down the centre of the place, so it's a bit of a rectangle so that we could draw off that. The feeder from the tank up on the hill is a 3.5-inch line, so it already had an 1.5-inch line, so we just ran a 2-inch beside that. So we got plenty of water in the right spots. And then because the animals were unadapted, we kept the stock density. And this took a lot of training of the animals. So some of them came in that you could not keep in the cattle yards, much less behind a single hot wire. So, so this took months with those ones. So we trained them. And then when we put them in, I had a small truckload of Angus cows that were practiced in this, and I used them to sort of guide the others. But we had to give them lower the stock density, give them a wider strip, and then lower the utilization to get them to move and get used to it and train them. And then eventually we could tighten them up. Then we automate that cross fence with a Penza Grow fence lifter. Oh, the box still here. Or a back latch that we modify and put on a piece of PVC pipe so that we can lift the tape and teach them to walk under the tape. Some of these cows were just nearly impossible for that. So I'm going, I can't get them to walk under. So what I argued was that if the tape was infinitely high, then they'd walk under it. So all I did was I got some really big long lengths of PVC, put them over a steerly, and eventually they'd start walking over. And then I just lowered the fence until, they'll duck under now. So, and we can automate it so that you're not out there doing every move. So lots and lots of training. When they calve, I train the calves to move on voice command, and that takes about a week to 2 weeks. So I'm doing this, waking calves up. Every time we shift them, we train them when it's easy, and it doesn't matter if they get it wrong and don't stay with the mob, so that when you do big moves, everyone's trained and experienced and stuff. So by the time calving's finished, we've usually got everyone pretty well trained, and it's only those newbies sort of thing that you've got to focus on. So that takes a week or two. So we're doing all these things. And then we're trying to manage, when I've got other work on, I give them wider areas, and then their rumens shift, and then they can only eat the bottom out of it, the best grass out of that pasture, and then you've got to change their rumens back. So we're forever trying to keep them tight. Now, a lot of the people that are using nitrogen supplements to modify the rumen, they can have the weekend off, because when the grass has got, or the supplement's got a lot of nitrogen in it, you don't have to do it 7 days a week to keep the rumen stable. So one of the things is that might be worthwhile doing, but I'm more interested in training these cattle, making them utilize heavier and heavier, getting them used to it, getting their bugs shifted, keeping them stable. I'd rather do that. And in our environment, it's very benign here. You've got to work hard not to grow grass in, a 600 mil rainfall temperate.
Yes.
Hot days 32.
Yeah.
It's so you can get away with this. There might be situations that you can't, but that's what I focus on. Reducing utilization until I get the modified animals. And I posted on Johan's group the other day that only now are the heifers better than their mothers. So I've been doing this since the late 80s, and now the heifers are better than their mothers. And I go, that's a real, they might, not just as good as their mothers, they're better. And that's different bulls. It's AI. It's importing semen from the States. It's doing a lot of that sort of stuff.
Yep. So how many times are you shifting them a day? And have you noticed, or have you found a cadence that's the best ROI for shifting cattle?
Well, I'm not sure. Think of it in terms of return on investment. This is how I find it works practically. If I misjudge how much they need in the night paddock, so I don't give them enough, I'll go out in the morning and they'll have low gut fill. Now I know I've got from my safe to fail trials, I want to be around this stock density. So let's say it's about 1,000 cows a hectare. That's going to mean more moves because I misjudged the night before. So this is this whole complexity thing. There is no recipe here. So you react to what's in front of you. I've got low gut fills. I'm going to have to work hard to fill them up and maintain animal performance because the gut fills are the leading indicator of the body condition score. So typically it'd be somewhere between 5 and 8 moves a day
Oh, wow.
to maintain. So if we've got really good grass, maybe at the change of, coming into spring where the grass is really sort of going berserk and there's lots of volume, then might be 5 moves. In the middle of summer, typically you've got to double to triple your stock density to get animal performance out of dry grass. Everyone goes the other way. They give them less, they give them more area. You've actually got to graze even harder. So which works mentally for me. The grass isn't as good. Of course, I've got to work harder. But our tendency is to go the other way. So
Yes.
so I'd be doing that. So what I do as I've got older is I set up the fence lifter the night before, so the first move's done, especially on those frosty mornings.
Yep.
And then the first move's done, then I'll go out and I'll set up water, shift water, set up fences, do all that, give them another move before I go, and then set the fence lifter. And that gives me sort of, out till 12 o'clock. So then I'll go out again at 12. So I go out once in the morning, once at 12. And then after we finish this, I'll go out. They've got one more move and then into their night paddock. And I'll set up the fence lifter for tomorrow morning. So it's about 3 visits sort of thing. So because we automate it. And it's still a lot. It's hard work because you've got to be concentrating. Did I give them enough? Did I not? What are all the interactions? So you've got low dung scores means that you probably gave them too much. Low gut fills. Oh, there wasn't enough of that better feed. What am I going to do? So it's
Yes.
all that sort of stuff all the time.
Yep. So the gate lifter or the wire lifter is a Pens Agro. What are some other useful tools? Any particular brands or equipment that you would recommend for that temporary fencing?
Oh, well, for the strips, when we started here, it was too wet to get a tractor around. It was during La Nina. So we ended up just doing an overdriven maxi post with Kiwi Tech line posts, so like a 10 mil permanent fence. Because my daughter, who was building it, could do that out of the back of the buggy. So she built, we didn't use that. We repurposed most of the wire, which was a pain, but so it really was quite cheap. And I've got a friend in Araluen near Braidwood in New South Wales that they were using Kiwi Tech, and I was not a fan, sort of thing. I always felt like it was a little bit overdone and stuff. And then, but it was the only way we could graze his hills was you had to be able to carry the posts and carry the wire. So I'd always just done it off the back of a 4-wheel motorbike where, because it was always flat, so there wasn't anywhere you couldn't ride it. You'd have to tip it over in a drain. Whereas, if you fell off some of the cliffs on his place, you'd die. So I was, it was and the fence on those really steep hills and
Yeah.
stuff. It was the only thing. So that's what I use now. So
Yeah.
Kiwi Tech
Kiwi
for the
Tech.
fencing. We don't do anything flash. We use cam locks on all the pipes. We use turf valves out of that 2-inch line, and we just plug we use the blue line poly to run water out. In summer, you've got to dump more water to keep it cool if it gets too hot in the pipe. But we keep the water near them. Um, yeah, they're sooky southern cattle. They don't like to walk. That was what the manager of AMH said, because we got
Yep.
so many dark cutters here
Yeah.
from being on grass that was too young. He said they're all sooky southern cattle, Yeah, which I thought was
No,
funny.
cool. Righto. Well,
Yeah,
yeah, the Kiwi Tech Pens Agro, a few of those bits of equipment. Awesome. So we're coming up on about an hour already here, Graham.
right.
So, I mean, the safe to fail trials are an awesome idea that you were describing a little bit earlier. For someone who might be listening, who's thinking about going down this route of slightly more management intensive grazing, or far more management intensive grazing. um, have you got any other bits of advice? Maybe just one or
Yeah,
two things that you'd say that could save them a lot of
I,
time
I
and
don't
heartache.
I don't see people being successful with moves less frequently than once a day, because the rumens of the cattle shift after that first day. And then, so if you gave them, say, 5 days of grass, the first 2 days they'd run around and eat all the low fiber, high protein. Then their rumens shift and they really struggle for the rest of the time. So that's what I see work is about once a day. Um, Definitely go around and put in. You've got to do things differently. Leave the ends of lanes or graze them at ultra high stock density. You've got to become your own expert, if you like. So you know what the patterns are on your land and your environment. But be very wary of any of the advice that I was saying earlier, and be like everyone will always be able to tell you, if you do this, you'll be able to carry more animals. I used to think it was, like that sort of more is more. And it's actually in agriculture, less is more. So it's about eliminating the risk. And the problem is we've got this whole thing, when people say to me, how are we going to feed the 8 billion, 10 billion, or whatever in the future? I go, it's not going to be by ruining the land. It just doesn't work. And it's not going to be from either feast or famine. It's going to be about stability. And we're going to have to find out what that level is and then manage it then manage our numbers to represent that. So, and I don't, like it's not, I don't care if, but, black, brindle, white, whatever, that's going to be the number. I really don't care. But we're going to have to somewhere think about what does that mean? Because so in the same way as overstocking on your farm's the biggest cause of failure, it's also going to be on the planet. So
No.
very
Awesome.
good.
Really appreciate your time, Graham.
Right.
Whereabouts can people find you if they want to follow you along and see a bit more
Yeah.
of what you're doing?
I work for a couple of. I'm on the board for a not-for-profit in Tasmania called the Regenerative Ag Network at Tassie. There's videos on there. My own website's called Hand for the Land, um, and also we've got a beef business now, perennial grasslands. So I worked for the MLA on the beef grading with Jason Strong. Um, and so we're sort of using the MSA grading on grass fed so that you get high eating quality, but all the benefits of grass fed. So there's going to be some newsletters and information and stuff on perennial grasslands
Perennial
beef.
grasslands. I will put
Yeah.
all those in the links. Is that so? Are they um, they're your own cattle that you're processing?
Yep. So
Yeah.
from East Gippsland. So so we run them through. But like, I worked licensing a lot of the abattoirs for MSA. So I've been to most of the abattoirs on the eastern seaboard.
Yep.
People would say that sounds like a flash job, and I'd say if you think a tour of the
Yeah.
abattoirs of the eastern seaboard is flash, yeah, it probably
Yep.
is. Yeah,
In 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 your years of doing this, I'm sure you've had a number of producers who have said, "Oh, I reckon I could capture more of the retail dollar if I started selling the beef." What are your thoughts on that for a majority of producers? Is that a trap, or do you think it's
Yeah, it is a trap. It is a trap because what we do is, and I say it increases your rainfall risk. That was the second highest risk. Because what people do is they've selected, I need this many animals for the meat business, say 100 heifers or 100 steers or whatever, and they won't sell them, which increases your risk, your rainfall risk. So you've got to learn to manage to not ever run out of grass before it makes money continuously. And it's a big job. It
Mm.
usually is, I'd say it's at least another half a job.
Mm.
So like I was writing newsletters yesterday, and
Yeah.
I've got sort of the owner's family are helping.
Mm.
You nearly need a full-time labor unit on it. So
Oh,
it's not a get rich quick scheme,
no.
and you've got to do it to all the regulations, or else you could risk losing the farm. So it's
Mm.
not easy. So yeah.
No. I definitely, yeah, I fell into that trap for a bit. Like, I'm still pretty well a one-man show. I lease all my blocks, I run all the cattle, and then I was trying to make the websites, take the cattle to the abattoirs, take them to the butcher,
Yeah.
get it delivered, keeping up on social media, and it was just like it was too much. But
Killer.
if I had someone like someone else in the business that could handle that, possibly down the track, but
Yeah, and you could get low cost meat, sort of, and with very low cost, low risk. So that you're never running out of grass. Then it might work, but there's no way that it actually is a get rich quick scheme. That's for sure. So,
no.
and I've got a partner in California, and he's sort of got a business that's selling over $1 million worth of beef that
Oh,
we've done since 21, I think. So he's
yeah.
really good at it, but he employs people. He's a very good manager.
Mm,
He's
that's
just
great.
great. Yeah.
Yep.
Uh,
Awesome,
Very
Graham.
good.
Well, thank you so much for hopping on with me. I really appreciate it.
I hope that's been all right, Ken. Thank
It's been
you.
awesome.
Thanks for,
Thanks.
thanks for having me.